In this video, I'm going to show you what I think are the top 5 features of Classpad.net. There's so many tools out there that you could be using for mathematics instruction to help students engage and learn and discover, and these are what I think are the top 5 for Classpad.net. There's a lot of other comparisons, so be sure to check the link that's in the description that will take you to a document that kind of compares Classpad.net to its competitors, but these are the top 5 that I think really make it stand out. So the first one, which is sort of my number one, is the fact that I don't have to leave the space. So this is the space of Classpad.net. We call it a paper, and it is an unlimited. So by that I mean you can work. You can just keep scrolling down. You'll see I already have some things down forever. So you can create documents that have everything you need in one place. You don't have to go to another tool. You're not limited to just a little graphical square rectangle area. You're not smushing everything into one space if you want to do more than one representation. You have unlimited workspace and all in one. That means you don't have to go to another tab to do geometry. You don't have to go to a different tool altogether to do statistics. You can do everything in Classpad.net. And by that I mean, let's just show you real quick. When I click anywhere on the screen, this is part of the flexibility, I can click anywhere and start working. So I can arrange my paper how I want, very flexible, and do the math that I want, also flexible, and I can do anything. So I can do a calculation. So we've got a whole full-on calculator tool. Notice that there's a soft keyboard that comes up. It's got your math templates. I can also do, and again, I'm just showing you how flexible it is. I could do graphing. Maybe I want to do a graph or enter a function or enter some data or put an image in and do things on top of it, or even plot points. So I can do that. And then I can move it out of the way and go on to the next thing. So it's very flexible. So I can do geometry. So notice this is a full-on geometry tool. It's got all of my constructions that I need. And once I have something in the screen, then I can measure and do all the different properties that I want. I can construct perpendiculars, adjust. So geometry tool. So let's move that out of the way. So notice the flexibility. I can just make the paper be the way that I want it to be. And I can get rid of things that I don't want that are maybe clogging my space. So we've done calculate, graphing, geometry. There's a full statistics menu. So notice that this is a table. And if I click it, you'll see that we have a full statistics. So those of you who are in AP statistics, notice there's regressions and tests and intervals and distributions and graphing. So lots of different types of plots for your statistics. So full statistics right in the tool. I do not have to get a separate tool. I do not have to go to a different page. Additionally, we have sequences. So there's a whole sequence where you can do different types of sequences, recursive, explicit, whatever you want, all in one, like I'm trying to explain here. And finally, we even have financials. So those of you who are incorporating financial literacy into your mathematics program or some other program, we have a full template of financial calculations that you would be appropriate for those types of courses. And finally, there's text. And text is amazing. You can move it around. So notice that my top 5 choices are in a text box, but I can do text boxes wherever I want, put them next to a calculation and explain. So it's great for giving directions, and it's great for having students reflect and write up their understandings, those types of things. So again, this is my number one reason for Classpad.net being that go-to mathematics tool, is that I can do whatever math I want all in this one space, and my space is unlimited and flexible. I can move things where I want and arrange my work the way I want it to, instead of being confined by a small area and told to do just graphing, but if I want to do something else, I have to go to another tool or another tab. That's my number one. Let's scroll down here. So notice my unlimited space. The next thing is graphing capabilities. It has some really unique graphing capabilities. There are other tools out there that are also good online graphing tools, but I just wanted to point out 2 specific things that I think are really amazing. So let's just pull up a graphing tool here, right? So this is graphing. It does what you'd expect and what other tools do as well. If I graph a function, let's just graph a function here. Y equals, it does exactly what you other tools would do. So if I click on the function, I'm going to see my key points that show up here, just like others. One nice thing is that it does do standard notation. You can change it to decimals if you want, but that's kind of a unique feature. And let's now graph a second function. So let's do y equals, and you don't have to do y equals, you could do f of x, g of x, whatever, but I'm just going to do so here we have our quadratic that I graph. And again, the key points come up. And what's really nice is that if they're shared points, you can see them together. So that's awesome. But what I really love that no one else can do is I have two graphs here. I could have three, I could have four, and each graph that I put on here is creating a separate tab. And Classpad.net has the ability to separate and merge these graphs. So watch what happens. Let's say I want to look at just the quadratic by itself. I can grab it and pull it out, and now I have the quadratic, and notice that everything is connected. I have two graphs now that are separated, and I can look at them separately. I can look at their tables separately. I can do all of that separately, and then I can just decide, you know what, I liked them together. Let's put them back together, and now they're back together. So splitting and merging of graphs is amazing because it really helps students kind of look at different representations or different types of graph and find commonalities, and then we can look at things separately. So the next thing I wanted to show you, there's lots of interesting features on here, and I can't possibly go through all of them, but I did want to point out the other number 2 part of the amazing graphing capabilities is the ability to do intersections and unions of inequality graphs. So I don't have inequality graphs, so I'm just going to go back into my things here and make them be inequalities. So notice when I'm doing graphing, my math template comes up, and so let's make this one greater than. So watch what happens. It automatically does the dotted line, and it shades in the area that's greater than, and let's make this one be also greater than. And so notice this is what most graphing utilities do, is show you the shading of each, different colors, and you see that cross section, which is where the colors kind of combine. But Classpad.net, if you go into the settings of the graph, you can actually turn off the union and make it be just the intersection. And now we actually just see the points that satisfy that intersection of those two different functions. So that to me is a really cool feature. And again, we could separate and merge if we wanted to. So that's number 2, amazing graph capabilities. This is just 2 of them, but that's pretty awesome in my opinion. Next, the adjust tool in geometry. This is something no one else has, and I love this because it really addresses the problem that a lot of teachers give, that they can't do software, they can't do technology with their students because they don't have time to teach the students the technology. I want to show you how amazing this is when we're doing geometry. So let's pull up a geometry sticky. Again, I hope you're noticing how easy and flexible and how much space I have. I haven't left my paper, but I've been doing graphing and geometry. So we're going to pull up a geometry sticky here. And a cool feature of this is I can just draw something. So I'm going to draw 2 segments. Oops, I have to actually draw them. Draw, and let's draw another one. And notice I just drew them, so students could easily do that. They don't have to know how to use the tool or anything. They could just draw 2 segments. But this adjust tool, which is something that's really unique, if I select the segments that I just drew, so let's imagine all the students have just done that, and I go to this tool called adjustment, I can make those congruent. So all of a sudden these are the same length. I could also make them parallel, and students could, you know, what does that mean? What did it do to the segments to see that they're parallel? And so we could explore that without having to actually construct parallel. I can immediately adjust. I could also then adjust them to be perpendicular. Ooh, what does that mean? Oh, look, there seems to be a 90-degree angle now. So this adjust feature is an amazing way to help students explore geometric constructs very quickly, very easy, without having to know how to use the tool. I'm going to delete that, and now I'm going to just draw a polygon just to show you something else that's pretty awesome. So let's say I tell every student to draw a 4-sided shape, and they all draw a different 4-sided shape. And so we can talk about what do they have in common, and we could measure the sides. So you could even measure the sides. Let's measure a couple of the sides just quickly. Let's measure 3. I could measure angles. I could do all that. Maybe we should measure one angle just to be... Oops, I have too much selected. So let's measure an angle. All right, so they've all done this. They've measured their size. They've measured their angles. But now the adjust tool, if you select that shape that they selected, so you tell all your students, select the shape, and now let's adjust it. We go into the adjust options, and notice I can make it congruent, so I can make two sides congruent, or I can make it a regular polygon. So watch what happens when I choose this adjust feature. All of a sudden, the shape, and every student has a different four-sided shape, all of a sudden they all have something in common. Let's look at everybody's. What do you notice? Well, all the sides are the same. Oh, they all have 90-degree angles. So we can make some very quick comparisons and start understanding what a regular polygon is without actually having to know how to use the tool. I can quickly adjust, draw, and adjust. So that, to me, is a really incredible feature of Classpad.net in its geometry sticky. Let's scroll down here. This is also one of my absolute favorite things about Classpad.net is the fact that I can have multiple representations all in the one space that are interconnected. So I'm going to just do a quick example of this for you. So what I have here is a geometric construct, right? So it's a dynamic circle that I can change, right? And I have a data table, so I'm collecting some data. So let's just collect some data here. And I'm not going to collect too many, but what I'm trying to show you is that I have two representations right here. I have a geometric representation that is dynamic, and I have a table that is collecting data, so you can do some real-time collection with the students. And let's just collect one more so that our data is a little more interesting. And we're gonna, so that's interesting, two representations right there. But because everything is connected, I can now do a graph very quickly. So I'm going to select my table. So notice that in the data, the statistical options come up, and I can make a scatter plot of my circumference and my diameter. And we probably want to change the color here so it stands out a little bit better. And then I can do a regression. So that looks like it has a constant value. So all in one space, I'm doing graphing, I'm doing regression, I'm doing scatter plots, and I have geometry. So notice now, and again, flexible space, I can move this up. And so what do I notice? There seems to be a constant connection and constant rate between the circumference and the diameter. And then I could calculate, let's do the ratio. And here's where I'm talking about the connection. So let's pull up the calculate sticky, and I can use the labels in the data table in my calculate to fill in my data table. So this is the cool thing about not only multiple representations, but also the interconnectedness of Classpad.net. So I can do circumference. So notice I'm using the words from the labels. So I've got the ratio is being defined as the circumference divided by the diameter. And when I click it, it creates a list here, and then it puts the list in to my table as well. So I have 3.14 seems to be that constant rate. So really amazing multiple representations, geometry, data, graphing, scatter plots, graphing, and then now I could do a function. All in one place, never having to leave. The final thing I want to show you is sliders for transformations. That's such a great way for students to explore what a transformation is. So I just want to demonstrate how easy it is to make sliders in the geometry platform and how easy it is then to have them compare things. So let's pull up that geometry sticky again, and let's make just a random shape here. And let's decide to, let's do a translation. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go into my constructs here, and I want to construct a translation. And we're going to do a translation. Notice you can do translation by vectors or coordinates. We're going to do coordinates. And I could put in specific rules, right? I could say move it 5 to +5 and -3, but I'm going to actually instead, this is how easy it is to create a slider, use variables. So let's use the variable h for horizontal, and then let's use the variable v for vertical. And notice that it creates a second image that is controlled by h, my horizontal, and v, my vertical. I could even do multi-character variables, and it will define them a little bit better. So that's another interesting feature of Classpad. But let's watch what happens. My horizontal, what's it doing to my original shape? It's moving it to the right when I get larger, and if I were to go to the left, it would go to, oops, it goes off the screen, so we don't want that. But they can explore what these transformations are doing simply by moving the sliders. And so you can do that for dilations, you can do it for rotations, and you can do it for translations. So that is my fifth feature that I really think makes Classpad.net stand out. So hopefully this helped give you a little bit of insight into how amazing the tool is, because it's really just so flexible. You can do any kind of math that you want in one place. Most important thing for me is I don't have to get a different tool out. I don't have to go to a second tab, and everything is connected. Have fun exploring.